that makes up the saying, math is not hard, it's just confusing. Okay. Negative exponents. Let's say I've got 3 to the negative 2 power. Let's say I've got 3 to the negative 2 power. And many of you, if I asked you to guess, I would say all of you would be wrong. You want to prove me true on that? Your guess, Jacob?
-9.
You are so wrong. Sammy?
6, 8.
Good try, but wrong. Gary?
Is it 6?
Wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. All of you are wrong. Okay, now, so, with that thought in mind, children, quite often I run into children who just guess on their paper about math things. Like, for example, if I ever said, give me, what fraction equals 0.15? And somebody writes 1/5 because they see a 1 and a 5 and want to make it a fraction. You know, that doesn't work in math. Some of you try that. You know, that's why you have your notes so you can go back and look at it. Here is what you need to know about negative exponents. It's very simple. It's just, it's not something you would think would be true. And this is, first of all, negative exponents, they are not our friend. And you must somehow find a way to make it a positive exponent. You must make all negative exponents positive, because we can deal with positive exponents. Okay, with that being said, here is the very, very, very simple way to make negative exponents positive. To make negative exponents positive. And then I'm going to have a very dramatic pause because this is a beautiful thing. Incredibly easy. Okay. In order to make a negative exponent positive, you simply move the base, what's going on here? Number from the top of the fraction to the bottom and by the way, I'm going to put or vice versa on here. And then what vice versa means?
Yep.
Right. Then you know how to spell vice versa. It must be Greek. Is that Latin or something? Vice versa or something like that. To the bottom or vice versa, and make the exponent its opposite. Now you will look at this and you'll go, I still have no idea what that means. But once you see the example, you will say, yeah, this is pretty simple. To make a negative exponent positive, you just move the base number from the top of the fraction to the bottom, or vice versa. If it was on the bottom, you move it to the top, and you make the exponent its opposite. I'll let you make sure everybody's got that written down, because you must see the examples in order to completely understand and enjoy this sort of mathematical operation sort of thing. I'll rewrite my little 3 to the negative 2 power here. Okay, first things first, in my thing on how to do this whole negative thing, it talks about fractions, and this is not a fraction. Uh-oh. But you being 7th graders probably know how to make anything a fraction. Oh, I'm getting a bunch of blank stares. If I had any number, how do I make any number a fraction? It's just by itself there. Jacob?
Do it over 100? What's a percent? Oh, that's
That is a percent. I thought you were halfway there. Sammy Spaniel?
Over one.
So this really becomes 3 to the negative 2 power over 1. That's making it a fraction. Now the rule just says this. If I want to change the exponent sign, and I don't like negative exponents, and I want to make it positive, I take the whole thing, I take this whole thing, and if it's on the top of a fraction, I just move it to the bottom of the fraction where it becomes a 3. The 3 doesn't change signs, 3 stays exactly like it is, but the exponent changes its sign. And it goes to the bottom of the fraction. And obviously there's nothing on top, but there's always, if nothing ends up being on top, you always put a 1 on top. And now you can deal with that exponent. What is 3 to the positive 2 power? 3 times 3 is 9. So this is what 3 to the negative 2 power is the same as 1/9. Who would have thunk? But that's what it is. 3 to the negative 2 power is the same as 1/9 because I move it from the top of the fraction to the bottom. It becomes positive. 4 to the negative 2 power is the same thing as 1 over 4 squared, which is 1 over 16. Okay. 3 to the negative 3 power is the same thing as 1 over 3 to the 3rd power, which is 1 to the 1 over 27. Please note this important thing. A negative exponent does not make your answer negative. In none of those situations there did I get a negative answer. Negative exponents don't have anything to do with whether the answer or simplified form is positive or negative. Grace?
So in the whole bubble thing,
In this bubble? This bubble.
no,
Yeah.
the one with a bunch of words.
Yes.
This is the last.
And make the exponent its opposite. Because if I asked you to make something to a negative exponent, you could do that for me too. You know, if I have 5 squared, okay, what is that going to be the same as? If I said make that to a negative exponent, it would be 1 over 5 to the negative 2 power. Why? Because I move this from the top to the bottom, and when I do that, it change the sign of the exponent. Now here's where you will, after we go over this, you'll look like one of the smartest 7th graders in the history of mankind. Check this out. If you had a to the negative 2 power, b to the negative 2 over power, over c to the negative 2 power, d to the negative 2 power, okay, in math, you are never allowed to leave your answer in with negative exponents. So in order, if I told you to simplify this, that would mean you just have to make all the exponents positive. Now, what is the very simple rule of changing signs of exponents? If it's on the top, you move the thing to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, you move the thing to the top. So, children, lo and behold, to get this to change to become a to the positive 2 power, I move it to the bottom. And it becomes a to the positive 2 power. To get this b to the negative 2 power to change to a positive, I move it to the bottom, it becomes b to the positive 2 power. To change a c to the negative 2, since it's on the bottom, I need to move it to the top. So c to the negative, c becomes c to the positive 2 power. Same thing with the d. It needs to flip from the bottom to the top, and becomes d to the positive 2 power. This and this mean the same thing, but this is the accepted form because we don't deal with negative exponents and we like positive exponents. That is the same thing written with positive exponents. And notice all I did was move the thing from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom. If it already would have been a positive, I would have just left it there. But I needed to make them all negatives or positives. Now, let's look and see what the book will ask you to do here. Well, here's one right out of the book. What is 2 to the negative 3rd power? What would 2 to the negative 3rd power be simplified? 2 to the negative 3rd power simplified. Somebody want to tell me what? do there? Hey, Tom?
Sure, it's like answer.
Sure.
I got 1/8.
Right, because you take this and move it to the bottom of the fraction, it becomes 2 to the positive third power, and 2 times 2 times 2 is 1/8. Stop me there if you didn't catch that. This, I made a fraction by putting it over 1. I can't have a negative exponent, so I take the whole thing, move it to the bottom, it becomes positive. Again, the number sign, the base doesn't change, only the exponent. Or this, what if I gave this 1 over 6 to the negative 2 power? What would that be the same as? 1 over 6 to the negative 2 power. Somebody out there in the mathematical room. Eli? 36. Why? Because you take this, move it to the top, you get 6 to the positive 2 power, and taking it away from the bottom, you're left with the 1, but anything over 1 is itself, that's why we don't really need it, it just ends up being 6 times 6 is 36. Now it's going to get a little more corny than that. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Let me see. I thought they had some letters here. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Oh, sure. I know why they told us this. How about this? What would 10 to the negative 4th power be? 10 to the negative 4th power. Oh, there's. I knew there was more. We'll be lucky. You end up being what, Sammy? Did you say Al?
Yeah, I just have to figure out what the numbers and
Just 4 of them. What's that?
100, yeah.
It's 1 over what? 1 with 4 zeros. 1 over 10,000. Or, in decimal form, guess what it would be? 0.000 tenths, 100,000s, 1 10,000. If I could have fit that up there. Now, here's where you're going to amaze and confound your friends. What if you were given this? Right out of the book. 2 times x to the negative 1st power, y, x to the 2nd power, y to the negative 2 power, z. Anybody got any thoughts on how to do it? I'm not looking for the answer. How to do it? Al?
Well, I think you put the 2 on the bottom of it.
Why would the 2 go on the bottom? Does it have a negative exponent?
Oh, wait, no.
2 stays on top. But I think you're on the right path here. If it already has a positive exponent, it's okay. If it has a negative exponent, what do you need to do? Move it to the bottom. So where are my negative exponents? Here and here. Those 2 letters need to be moved to the bottom to make it a positive exponent. So you keep 2y x squared z on top because they're already positive exponents. But then you need to move these 2 to the bottom so it becomes x to the positive 1 power and this becomes y squared. You with me? I needed to change those to positives. Unfortunately, I'm not done yet because you can simplify this. What can I do? Ladies and gentlemen. What happens if I have x times x on top and 1x on the bottom here? Kels? Yep. Okay. X squared means x times x. One of these x's crosses off with one of the x's on top, so I'm left with an x on top. What about the y's? What's going to happen? Sammy? Right, but there's 2 of them on the bottom, correct? Y squared is y times y. So one of the y's crosses off with one of the y's on the bottom. So when all the smoke clears, what will my answer be? Christine?
2z over y.
Now what about this guy here?
Oh, 2zx.
Yeah, 2zx over y. Correct. I should give you another one of those because I can tell you're absolutely aghast and excited about that. How about this one? I'll give you a chance to do this one. 6x to the negative 2, y to the third, z to the negative 1 over 2x y. Give you a chance and see how you do with this. It's kind of a tough problem, I will grant you that. See if we get any of this right, we get the right answer. Step number 1 is make your negative exponents positive, I'll tell you that. Anything that has a negative exponent, you need to make it a positive exponent. Gary, you're supposed to check yourself here. Did you? What was it?
109.
It's perfect, isn't it? What is perfect? 120, 110, 100? What's perfect?
109.
Acceptable is between 90 and 110?
Actually, the 140 to 80 is about the range.
From 80 to 140, you can be in that big of a gap. Home on the range. Have you got an answer yet? And this is again where those of you who are not neat and orderly, you will suffer and struggle just a touch here. You need to keep yourself organized for this. Who's got an answer? Who doesn't have an answer? You can't raise your hand for both of those. It shouldn't take quite that too long to do this. Who's got an answer now? Oh, we're up to 3 people. Who's got an answer now? Who wishes they had an answer? Who's very confident their answer is right? Well, let's take a look here, children. Well, let me give me an answer there. Grace says what?
X, Y, 3 over 6x squared z 1.
XY 3 over 6x. Can you give me that again?
6, y, 3
So you have 6y cubed over
x squared z.
x squared z something? Is that it?
Z, I just got z.
Z to the first power?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't put a ones. I mean, the z to the first power is a z. That's what you have for an answer? What happened to this guy? So we got something else. Christine?
I have 6y to the second, and then
Over?
z. No, z is
Over here?
and then I have, and then x 3 2.
X what?
3 2.
Alright, you guys are gonna have to either say cubed or to the third power 2 because I don't know what
Oh,
x32 is this, and I don't know what x32 really means.
X cubed 2.
Oh, so 2x cubed. Anybody else get that? Well, don't forget, numbers can be reduced too. So if you end up with a 6 over a 2, 2 goes into 6 3 times. There should be a 3 is left on top. I'm not so sure your letters are. But let's look at this. Take a look up here. This is the best way to go about this. Step number 1 is make your negative exponents positive. So bring this to the bottom and make it x to the third, or to the second power. Bring this to the bottom and make it z to the first power. How many people started off at least got that part going for them? Perfect. Now it's a matter of simplifying what you can. Like I said, doing the number part, 2 does go into 6, so you should have crossed that off and been left with the 3 on top. Okay. This is y cubed over y. So this is 3y's times themselves, y times y times y, and one of those y's crosses off with one of those y's there. So if you had y squared, that's going to be the y simplified. What's left? Nothing left on top because we moved all this stuff down. On the bottom, the 2 crossed off, you're left with an x and an x squared. Those can be put together to give you x cubed. You have 1 here plus another 2 is x cubed. The z stays on the bottom, so it's z. So simplified all the way, it's 3y squared over x cubed z. How many people had that? Yes. Perfect. Love it. Nice. You say, hey, give us another one, because we're just getting excited about this.
Just
If I can find one, hold on. We're just getting excited about that. Don't worry, I will find one more here just shortly. Maybe tomorrow we'll make a nice little worksheet for those. You gotta grab life by the horns. Maybe I don't see one here. Sure, let's do this one. I'll make me own up. How about this? 8x negative 2 y z negative 3 over 16x y negative 4 z squared. Do that and see what you get for me. Eight x to the negative 2 y z to the negative third over 16x y to the negative 4 z squared. Try to get back into the school routine. Answer? Oh, we do have some answers. Love it. Ev says
2x over y cubed z.
2x over y, 2x over y cubed z. Anybody else jumping on the 2x over y cubed z bandwagon? Uh-oh, Ev. Peter.
I got 2y to the 5th power over x cubed times
Over what? X cubed what?
x cubed z to the 5th.
Z to the 5th. Anybody jumping on the 2y to the 5th over the x cubed z to the 5th bandwagon? Uh-oh. Michael?
That's what I
Sammy?
had. I got 1 and then y to the 5th over 2x to the 3rd.
Z's ended up disappearing into space?
Never mind.
Christine?
I had 2 y to the 5th, over z to the 5th, x to the and x squared.
We're jumping on a 2y to the 5th over z to the 5th x squared. Gary?
I had 2 and y to the 5th over x cubed and z to the 4th.
Alright. I'm not sure anybody got it right there, but let's take a look, see here. Step number 1, anything that has a negative exponent, we're going to move from the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom. So both of these are going to go down, and this one's going to go up, right? So on top, I'm going to have the 8, which I started with. The y is positive. I move this y to the 4th. Y up becomes y to the positive 4th power. That's what's left on top. On bottom, I have my 16. I have my x, and I have my z squared. And then I bring the x to the negative 2, it becomes x to the positive 2, and the z to the negative 3 becomes z to the 3rd power. That's just shifting the letters from top to bottom, changing their exponents, right? Everybody pretty much with me on that? I just move these down and that one up, and I end up with that. Okay, now, you missed the numbers a little bit here, because if I said, what is 8/16 reduced? 8/16 doesn't give you a 2 on the top. 8/16 gives you a 2 on the bottom, because 8 goes into 8 one time and into 16 twice. So the 2 should have been on the bottom. I'll give you a little break on that. Y plus a y to the 4th is a y to the 5th on top. Looks like we got a bunch of y to the 5th, so if I got that. Putting the bottoms together, x and x squared is x cubed. Z squared and z cubed is z to the 5th. So it should have been y to the 5th over 2 x to the 3rd z to the 5th.